The full transcript of this will be posted at Rumble, not YouTube, because YouTube, you suck. Recently, divorcee and election denier Sam Seder was whining about Rudy Giuliani employing trickery in the form of telling illegal aliens and legal resident aliens that were not official legal U.S. citizens that they would be required to show proof of citizenship before voting in the 1993 New York City mayoral election. Is a divorcee, Sam Seder, engaging in election denialism? His party is full of election deniers. Such luminaries as Maxine make a crowd around Trump cabinet members when you see them and harass them, Waters. Reverend love child Sheila Jackson and his mentally ill son. Barack, it's clear not every vote was counted in 2004, Obongo. Robert Sheets Byrd. Barbara Boxer, Hillary, Russia hacked the vote, Clinton. The overweight, looking like the Crypt keeper, Stephanie Tubbs Jones, with emphasis on Tubbs. Ferret Face, Jamie Raskin. Sheila Jackson Lee. Cynthia McKinney. John Conyers, who wanted an FBI investigation into voter suppression and fraud. Eddie Bernice Johnson, the swimmer Ted Kennedy, who drove off a bridge in 1969, resulting in the death of Mary Jo, Elijah Cummings, and many others. The creepy divorcee Sam Seder is also perpetuating the big lie. What if Rudy Giuliani said, quote, "I don't regret that at all. They can call it what they want. Dinkins didn't win, did he?" You may remember dingy Harry Reid saying that after admitting he admitted that he lied about Mitt Romney's tax returns on the Senate floor during the 2012 presidential campaign. But he said, so what? Romney lost, didn't he? When the divorcee Sam Seder whines about people showing proof of citizenship or an ID, he tips his hand as a vote fraudster. Why do you think Ohio had to go all the way to the SCOTUS for the right to clean their voter rolls? If you fail to vote in 3 federal elections, you are removed from the voter rolls. The Democrats do not want voter roll maintenance done. This way they can mail out ballots to every registered voter willy-nilly. They have a pool of inactive voters to utilize for fraud in the event of a close election. Why do you think Democrats like Keith Ellison sponsored legislation that would have allowed anyone to walk into any precinct and cast a ballot sans identification that would not be provisional? Because he wants fraud to be easy. Why do you think Republicans in Iowa had to go to court to fight for a photo ID requirement? Because the Democrats want fraud in the event of a close election. Voter fraud in many cases does not have to be widespread, so don't let them play that game with you. Many races would require only 1 in 1,000 votes to be fictitious to sway an election. The divorcee Sam Seder has tipped his hand. Iowa has a photo ID requirement, but if you do not have your ID, and I'm working to change that, if you do not have your ID, you have to sign a sworn affidavit that you are who you say you are, and if you're found guilty of false information, you can be charged with a felony. I want a photo ID required or your ballot is provisional, and you have the Tuesday after the election to provide the relevant information to your county auditor. Is Sam Seder engaging in the big lie? Is the old man an election denier? Sounds like it. The pot and kettle have now tendered their resignations. Here's some sobering information. I'm not going to read all this off, but the whole transcript will be on Rumble. Some sobering information courtesy of the New York City Department of Investigations 2013 report on the New York City Board of Elections, Employment Practices, Operations, and Election Administration. And what they did is they tested, here's what happened. DOI interviewed a former Board of Elections employee who reported that BOE maintains active voter registrations for people who are not eligible to vote, including deceased individuals, felons, and non-residents of New York City, the Democrat base, basically, and duplicate registrations for some voters. The former employee also stated that people could vote as ineligible voters remaining on the rolls because those individuals would appear in the registration books on election day. This is why they don't want voter roll maintenance. And poll workers do not scrutinize the signatures of voters to determine that they are similar to the pre-printed digitized signatures in the poll book. In light of these statements, DOI sought to test whether ineligible individuals, and those of you who have followed my channel, I've already covered this at one time or another, DOI sought to test whether ineligible individuals are present on the voter rolls. Thus, using various database searches, DOI identified 176 individuals who at one time were registered voters in New York City, 86 deceased persons, 42 felons, and 48 former city residents. During DOI's citywide 2013 Election Day investigative operations, DOI sought to determine whether any of them remained in BOE's registration books and to test whether investigators using the names of those ineligible individuals would be permitted to vote. In sum, DOI investigators found that 63 out of 176, or 36%, of the ineligible individuals were still listed as eligible voters, 36% of them, eligible voters in the registration books at poll sites. The majority of those 63 ineligible individuals remained on the rolls nearly 2 years, and some as long as 4 years since a death, felony conviction, or move outside New York City. In total, DOI investigators were able to cast a vote in as 61 of the 63, or 97%, ineligible voters who were listed in the registration books. 39 dead people, 14 felons, and 8 non-residents. Although no vote was cast for an actual candidate, they signed the name John Test. One of them, there's only 2 instances failed, and one of them was because the investigator was impersonating someone who was incarcerated, and that person's father happened to be working the election that day, and he said, "I know you're not my son because my son's in prison." So in New York City, I admit most of the shafting, it's Democrats screwing Democrats, but if there was vote fraud and chicanery, Sam Seder, old man, it was probably helping Democrats and not Republicans. So now that we have that out of the way, I've challenged the divorcee Sam Seder numerous times to a debate on why the most violent jurisdictions in America have loads of black-on-black murder, and they tend to vote Democrat. We're going to keep hammering away on this. Stan has a lot of free time, so I'm going to keep pushing back on him. Nobody's going to out-free time him. We keep pushing back. For every cop that shoots a black person, whether it is justified or not, or shoots any person, I have a truckload of young black males slain by other young black males. The divorcee has continued to run away from this, and if I challenge him, he is required to answer immediately or he forfeits. I've had a number of his autistics tell me to call into his little internet show and joust with him on this. Do they really think I can cover several 100+ pages of data I have in a 20-minute phone call with a bipolaroid when I have a real job and no time to listen to internet shows? I've informed them to tell the divorcee to dedicate tomorrow's show attempting to refute my data, and I will respond in kind when I get home from my real job. I've yet to see this challenge met. Apparently Stan has conceded. Why are his voters so violent and so mentally ill? The most dangerous adversary to a young black male is not the police, not a Confederate flag-waving redneck, not a white militia member, but other young black males, and I have the data to prove it. It's not trickery, it's not sorcery, it's not ambiguous, it's not moving goalposts. It's the real deal. It's not semantics. It's the real deal, and I didn't set on my laptop during the break of an obscure internet show named after an obscure show on a failed network like Air America. I collated it myself, and nobody Googled some facts during the break and fed me talking points. Sam Seder has privately acknowledged this, but he's going to say it publicly, period. Oh, one last thing, Sam Seder. Did Joe Biden ever engage in any election trickery where fat women from out of state were stuffing ballots in drop boxes in Georgia at 3 a.m. with rubber gloves on? Just wondering, old man. Have a nice day.